This podcast is brought to you thanks to the generous support of Whistler Blackcomb, leaders in delivering adventure.
In those 8 years, we have 5 new businesses that would not be here without the bike park. Now, that's not without the trail system. Now, that's not a coffee shop or a brewery or a little local restaurant who's really benefiting from the tens of thousands of people that are coming. This is, these are bike shops, these are trail building associations or trail building groups. Like this is, 5 new businesses in a town that doesn't have a lot. It's a pretty amazing economic opportunity or economic impact.
Welcome to Delivering Adventure. This is the podcast that explores what it really takes to share adventure like a pro, with your friends, your family, and as a profession. My name is Chris Capio, and I'm coming to you from Whistler, British Columbia.
And I'm Jordy Shepherd, recording from Canmore, Alberta. After a lifetime of working extensively in different parts of the adventure guiding industry, Chris and I have teamed up to launch this podcast. In each episode, you will hear top adventure guides, managers, marketers, and athletes share their best stories, advice, and trade secrets. The goal of this podcast is to share how you can take yourself and others farther from the mountains to the office and beyond. In this episode, Curtis Pawliuk joins us to talk about how we can create adventure. Curtis Pawliuk lives and plays in Valemount, BC, and is the executive director of the Valemount and Area Recreation Development Association, known in short as VARDA, a not-for-profit association specializing in public recreation area development and management. Curtis is also a CAA professional member, snowmobile guide, avalanche instructor, and the owner-operator of Frozen Pirate Snow Services, which is a backcountry snowmobile guiding and avalanche safety operation. In this first episode of 2, we are going to learn about Curtis's work on the Valemount Bike Park, which has become quite a success.
Well, Jordy, this sounds great. Let's bring Curtis into the DA studio. All right. Welcome to the show, Curtis. How are you today?
Hey, man, I'm great. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks a lot for having me. Stoked to be here.
Where are you right now?
You know what? I had the most perfect podcast location. I was staring, I was right at the northern tip of the Columbia Basin, staring at Canoe Mountain, which was the kind of the northern tip of the Montashis. I had the Caribous beside me, the Rockies on the left. That didn't work, so now I'm down in the snowboard dungeon, down in my basement in Valemount, BC.
Yeah, that was my fault. I made you move. Sorry about that.
All good.
Hey, so can you tell our audience about your background? And, you live in Valemount, which is right up near the British Columbia-Alberta border, near the Canadian Rockies, right there. Yeah. If you can kind of tell us your background, how you got there, where you're from.
Absolutely. It's quite the story, and it's involved, so I'll try to be somewhat brief. But first off, before your listeners hear it, it's Valemount. If I don't correct you on that one right away, I'm gonna get hung out to dry here. So Valemount for sure. We're pretty passionate about that one. How I ended up in Valemount, it's pretty interesting. I was kind of born in northern BC in Prince George. I spent most of my up till about 19, 20 years old there, and then always in the bush at a cabin fishing. Grew up in the local snowboard hills. Not a huge backcountry family, like an outdoor family, but never really in the high mountains. No climbing, no mountaineering, nothing like that. Just the bush, northern BC bush. And then graduated high school and was kind of lost and doing some odd jobs and basically just living in the back of a Toyota pickup truck, fly fishing when I could and working when I absolutely had to. So having a lot of fun, but then feeling a little bit lost and ended up finding a upstart college program in a place I'd never heard of, called Valemount. It was an adventure program called the Northern Outdoor Recreation and Ecotourism Program. It was the first year the college program ever was out there. It was the first year it ever ran. Just a certificate program, so just the 1 year, but sounded interesting to me. So I literally packed up my little truck and drove to Valemount and participated in this college program. And it kind of set my career for outdoor tourism, adventure tourism, ecotourism, whatever you want to call it. Just in the adventure realm, it basically started me delivering adventure, which was pretty cool. Took the experience from that program and ended up in Jasper, Alberta for, I think, 5 seasons. I worked as a fly fishing guide in the national park there. Went down to Revelstoke one of the winters. I sent out resumes to everywhere. Fell in love with sledding in Valemount, I guess, wind back a little bit. And then while I was in Jasper, just was peppering everybody with resumes and, for the snowmobile guiding operations. And snowmobile guiding is actually a really small activity. There's not a lot of operations out there doing it. And I got picked up by Glacier House down in Revelstoke. So moved everything I had down to Revelstoke and, spent an amazing season down there. And when I was in the college program, I met a young girl, beautiful little blonde girl who's now my wife, and father of 2 kids and married for oh God, shouldn't even say it, quite a long time. And we always wanted to come back to Valemount, but there wasn't a lot of employment here. There wasn't a lot of work to do. We ended up just kind of making the push and making the move and getting back here. And it was kind of karma. VARDA, what we'll talk about here in a bit more, was just created, and it was having some issues and it needed some staff. And I had a little bit of a reputation as an outdoor guy, and they picked me up, and gosh, that was 17 years ago.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. It's so cool how these little programs, whatever they are, we're talking about a tourism-based program that you did there in the local college, can be so influential. Uh, just by giving people opportunities and giving you a chance to see what's actually out there. So that's super cool that was your path. Now, can you describe Valemount for us? Like, a lot of people may have just driven through it on the way to places like Jasper or Edmonton or Vancouver, but I bet you there's a lot of people that actually haven't been there at all, because it is a ways away from kind of the center of British Columbia, or if you're listening from around the world. Can you describe like what is the town like? Because it's not, we've done a lot of discussions with people in Canmore and Whistler and kind of the big resort towns, but Valemount is not like that at all.
No, it's not. And I definitely say Valemount's in a community that's in transition. We were that mill town, big sawmill. It was full industrial, full logging community, which was great. It was, provided some great jobs. It was a lot of local employment. And then, the government made some changes in the kind of the lumber industry of where wood can go. And that resulted in somebody buying our timber license and our mill actually shutting down, and, the majority of the community losing their jobs. So we saw a lot of people move away at that point. Everyone lost benefits, lost programs, and so we lost a lot of our local population. We're sitting now around 900 to 1,000 people. We're still a forestry town. There's a local community forest that is amazing for our community, provides jobs, provides investment back into the community. CN Rail also comes through here, so we have it's a railway town as well. But really, we've definitely made a transition into the tourism realm for sure. We've been known as a backcountry and winter snowmobile community for a long time. Some of the changes that the company I work with has done, VARDA has done, is with working with it's kind of the sled ski side of things, the snowmobile side of things, now the mountain bike side of things. As well as there's a non-motorized group as well that's developing some hiking trails, a little bit of backcountry ski opportunities, but we're still quite an untapped community. The people that are coming here now, due to the activities that we have, they're assuming the town's full of Arc'teryx and Gore-Tex and people walking around in ski boots, and because they're like you mentioned, Chris, they're like the Canmore, the Whistler, the Jasper. That's not Valemount. We're turning into a more outdoor-based community with our residents here. So people are moving here for those opportunities, and it's really neat because those people that are moving here with that outdoor spirit really have the opportunity to help shape this community, and it's been something that's been really cool to be a part of. So we're starting to really see that change into, I don't want to call it a resort community by any means, but into an outdoor-based adventure community, but spearheaded by the locals that live here. So it's been super cool.
So based on that, if you haven't gone through Valemount, what I can tell you is it is beautiful. Like you've got this really big valley, the giant mountains all around. You've got Kinbasket Lake, which is right there. So there's a lot of adventure opportunities there. So can you tell us about some of your adventure related achievements while you've been out there? Like, what are the things that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think when I started with VARDA so I guess I'll start back. VARDA is the Vail Mountain Area Recreation Development Association. It's unique. It's a nonprofit association that used to be a snowmobile club. But back in 2004, there was conflicts in the backcountry between, motorized adventure, so heli ski, cat skiing, non-motorized users, snowmobile users, and everybody came to the table. The government helped us with a sustainable resource management plan, and everybody came to the table and created what we now call VARDA, the Valemount Area Recreation Development Association. And that group now, while it still is primarily, its main task is managing the recreational snowmobile tourism industry for the town. We've led off into, and that's working alongside heli ski companies, cat ski companies, the business. It's a really unique group. But that led us into kind of the expansion and where whatever vision we saw for our community, we were able to help implement it. And it's been a really unique thing. And those are some of the biggest accomplishments we've done. We created the world's first ever snowmobile assisted ski hill. It's called Crystal Ridge. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment. During that SRMP process, that management plan process, they consulted local stakeholder groups as what they wanted to see in a sort of a management plan. And a local group had this idea. They called themselves the Power Boarders back then, and they had this idea that they wanted this zone where they could do sled skiing, but not in a massive, a busy snowmobile managed area or where a lot of people were. More of a remote zone. So, we have 6 runs now on Crystal Ridge. They're 2,000 vertical feet, almost 2 kilometers long. The challenge is there, not creating a bunch of avalanche paths. So, really it's tree skiing. It's a little bit shallower angle, but it's absolutely an amazing thing to do. Also with VARDA there, we've created the Valemount Bike Park over the last 8 seasons, which is probably, I'm sure we'll talk about a lot more, which has completely changed our community and really put Valemount on the map as a summer destination, not just that pass through. Personally, I've been with VARDA for 17 years as the executive director. I also I'm their avalanche forecaster, their field tech, kind of jack of all trades, working for a really good board of directors and a core group of volunteers. Alongside that, I run a avalanche training and a snowmobile guiding company called Frozen Pirate Snow Services. So we're kind of a boutique company. We offer small-sized avalanche training courses for the public, the recreational courses. We're a tenured guiding operation, so doing things the right way. It was really important to us to do things the right way and work properly with ministries and stakeholders and government stuff. I'm 10-year veteran on the Avalanche Canada Board of Directors and involved with many different hats. So I think proud of the things I've done and more excited on the things we can do.
So Curtis, I have some roots in Valemount as well. My parents retired there. I grew up in Jasper Park, and my parents did retire there. They both passed away, but we still have the family homestead there.
You're kidding? I had no idea.
Yeah, on Petaluna Road there. So I'm quite connected to the Valemount community there, and a friend owns and operates Three Ranges Brewing there.
You're friends with Mike.
Rundy. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Her father was a park warden in Jasper, and great beer.
Yeah.
And so I have spent some time at the Valemount Bike Park there. Tell us about it. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, it's a project of passion for sure, and quite an amazing story. When I mentioned VARDA alongside a non-motorized group, we're non-motorized as well with the mountain bike side of things. It gets a bit convoluted, but in about 2011, there's a local group called the Yellowhead Outdoor Recreation Association, and they're more in charge of hiking trails, some of the backcountry ski opportunities that we have here, and they created there again another implant from Jasper. So there's quite a few of you guys here that come over to Valemount. There's a young kid there named Andreas Tony, and he was living in Valemount and had this dream of building bike trails and developing Valemount into some sort of a trail network, or even providing something just for the locals. Really, I don't think at that time it was supposed to be this big tourist attraction or this big recreational and economic impact opportunity. So they contacted IMBA Canada to create a master plan for an area we call 5 Mile, which is really right at the back of Valemount. I can be up at the bike park within 5-minute pedal from my house. They created this master plan, a first stage of a master plan, and it was supposed to be about a 5-year build. But that plan sat dormant for, I would say, up to 3 or 4 years. Really, nobody acted on it. And it was basically because Eora didn't have the capacity to implement that sort of plan. They didn't have a staff. They were strictly a volunteer-run organization. That was, in a small town like this, you've got the STP committees, the same 10 people committees. So everybody gets a bit tired. And they approached me. I like that. They approached me at VARDA. And I was a biker. I had a very, very strong history of success, I'm going to be honest, in getting large projects done and finding funding for large projects. And probably the hardest part about the bike park was convincing a group of business owners, local governments, snowmobilers, like my VARDA board, convincing them that, bike trails were going to be the future of Valemount, or could play a big part in the future of Valemount. Luckily, I was successful. And we're now on the 8th. We just finished our 8th season of building. We have 54 trails. Like, some of those are connector trails, of course. But we're very proud of a kind of a new school, polished, very high quality downhill network, as well as now with the last couple of years, we added up to 30 kilometers of cross country network on the north side, on the Swift Creek side. In my opinion, it's been one of the best things that has ever happened to Valemount in the last, 15 years since, or 20 years since I've been here.
Yeah, this summer I had the opportunity. I think it had just opened what's it called? The Secret Garden, the
Zen Garden.
Zen Garden. Yeah. I won't give it away, but go ride it. It's fantastic.
We want everybody to come. Yeah, we want everybody to come. I think that's one thing that you're going to notice when you come here. Someone will grab you by the hand and pull you out mountain biking. Like, if you want to find your way around the trails, someone will show you. It's pretty cool.
So how does the bike park benefit the community of Valemount and the surrounding area?
I think that's something that surprised me, surprised our local government, surprised our business owners. We're a destination management organization, so resort municipality. So we get a hotel room tax that comes back into tourism development, marketing, that sort of thing. And again, trying to get some funding to build this bike park. Some of the people contributing to this fund, or some of the larger business owners, we didn't, even myself, I didn't really understand how far in depth mountain bikers go into their culture, into involving themselves in a local community. They're a user group that shows up in a community. They want local food. They want local beer. They want to camp and stay close by. And it's completely shifted the mentality of some of these local businesses. One of our largest hotels, who was a skeptic of what we were actually doing with bike trails, now is investing tens of thousands of dollars into storage units and marketing campaigns. And, it's really come full circle. In those 8 years, we have 5 new businesses that would not be here without the bike park. Now, that's not without the trail system. No, that's not a coffee shop or a brewery or a little local restaurant who's really benefiting from the tens of thousands of people that are coming. This is, these are bike shops. These are trail building associations or trail building groups. Like, this is, 5 new businesses in a town that doesn't have a lot. That's a pretty amazing economic opportunity or economic impact. And then, the way bikers like to involve themselves into local culture, they want that local sandwich. They want a taste of the towns they're in. They want a taste of the culture they're in. Valemount downtown core used to be busy. There was nobody down there. It was a beautiful place to be, but it was a ghost town. Now, all summer long, it's full of smiley people. It's full of bikes. It's full of people biking around, trucks with bikes on them. It's a vibrant downtown core, and the economic impact, it can't be missed.
Yeah, when I was there this summer, it was packed, packed. So the shuttle service with the van and the racks for bikes on the trailer that was there, the people were lined up like they lined up for the chairlift.
It's pretty exciting.
It was absolutely crazy. And I've watched this over the last few years, how it's just blossomed. And so where did the funding come from for this? Like how what partnerships were developed, required, grants?
For sure. Yeah. So we're lucky that we're a nonprofit association that has an employee. That's a very good thing. All of this work can get pretty tiresome for a group of volunteers. So, part of the work, one of the most important parts of my job is finding funding. Valemount's also a tagline that I often use is that we are the north of the south and the south of the north. And that puts us opportunity by it puts us into a classification as a northern community, but maybe in like the Thompson Okanagan and then also the Columbia Basin. So I have potentially 3 different variations where we can look for funding, look for grant opportunities. But that's not where it all came from. We have a strong membership. We have over 320 mountain bike members annually. Those guys create quite a substantial impact into the community. We have, local fundraisers we've invested heavily into relationship building with Valemount Community Forest, Tourism Valemount. So yeah, we're lucky. It's a challenge to find the funding, but having some staff kicking around, someone who's dedicated to moving these projects forward is a really big benefit.
And tell our listeners about the building process. How did it actually get built out? The planning of it, the actual shovels and equipment.
For sure. We actually get contacted a lot on how this stuff is done, how we're successful, how other communities can be successful as smaller BC communities communities everywhere are transitioning to some form of, sustainable tourism. One thing I could say that it took me a while to learn was to plan, really plan, consult, talk. So when you actually construct a trail, there's so many stages. Just because you want to build a trail somewhere doesn't mean that trail should be there. It doesn't mean that style of trail fits there. It doesn't mean the ground wants that trail there. It doesn't mean the community wants that trail there. There's a lot of work to do that goes in behind, deciding where a trail should be. And, luckily the group back in the first days created this master plan with IMBA, and that gave me a kind of a starting point as to what to build and where to build. But we very quickly noticed deficiencies, or that maybe parts of this plan didn't quite fit into what our community vision was. So we did change some things over. But, when you're starting to look at trail development, you're looking at, is this a good place for this? Is this trail going to be able to stay here for the next 50 years? Is it a sustainable place to put a trail? Is it wet? Is it dry? Does the forest handle it? What type of trail can I put here? What's my user group? Does my community want a trail here? And then we go into, actually that's ground truthing the trail. Then we go into getting, permission if it's on private land, crown land, or public land. We might have to involve Rec Sites and Trails BC. We certainly have to consult, with your local First Nation groups, any other stakeholders such as a community forest, or any groups involved into that land base. And then, once you have that dream and have ground truthed and kind of gained those permissions, and then it's funding source. And, a big thing to decide is, are you going to machine build? Or are you gonna hand build? There's benefits to both. Machine build trails are often they're a bit more expansive. They're a bit more. Sometimes they can be more fascinating to look at. They certainly are what brought people into our community and what developed the Valemount trail system. But they also require a ton of maintenance. To keep the brake bumps off of them. They're more of a flatter surface, more of a flow style trail. Where if you hand build something in, they tend to wear in on their own, develop sort of an organic feel. So there's a ton that go into, trail management, trail design, trail building, trail planning. And it's best done with a committee and community involvement and stakeholder engagement. And the end product can be pretty amazing, as we've seen what's happened here.
Yeah, I've noticed being up there with the road that kind of dissects the whole area there on the mountainside. It seems like there was extensive planning that went into there, because it could be, very easily you're running into, oh no, we've got trails crossing the road all over the place. And then, cars interacting with people, which is never a good thing to have. And, affecting the shuttling experience, affecting the uphill and downhill biking experience. So yeah, it seems like it was really well thought out and really well done. I definitely have noticed the ambulance there quite a bit too. So just a heads up for folks.
I had a feeling that was going to come up. And I knew risk management was going to pop up here somewhere. But what you guys do for a living, what I do for a living, we're managing for risk in activities that are inherently risky. Right. So it's, and it can be a numbers game for sure. With our bike park alone, our trail system alone, this summer, we have 6 electronic counters out of the company in Canmore there. So really high tech counters. Now those 6 trails recorded over 80,000 passes from May to the end of September alone. 80,000 passes. So when you're, I think our record's really, really good, but when you're managing the risk of something that's inherently risky, things are going to happen for sure. Yeah. And I really like that you hit on the design of our trail system. Our goal was, inclusivity, accessibility for all levels of riders, enjoyment for all levels of riders. So as our trail system is developed, our goal was to always have a green, a blue, and a black from as many staging areas as possible, or trail junctions as possible, but reducing trail crossings, road crossings. The last thing I want to do when I'm riding a trail is pull out my phone and have to go on trail forks to find out where I'm going. And it just drives, it has to happen. It's part of the game, but it drives me crazy. So we tried to make things user friendly, make it flow, but also have variety. And if you build it right, like our quote unquote 54 trails, that's about 150 trails, the way I can link them together and ride them differently and ride them backwards. Yeah.
What were some of the challenges you experienced in creating the bike park? A few of the top challenges.
You certainly learn them as you go. You learn your challenges as you go. They don't all come up right away. I'd have to say respecting and involving, all stakeholders. There's ones that you wouldn't even consider, or ones that you wouldn't even think about. How do you reach everybody? How do you involve everybody? And how do you not forget somebody? And when you're working with a community, you're trying to consult with people, you're trying to involve people, you want to collaborate with them, and then also empower them a little bit and help them make some choices. So, a mistake I might have made was thinking that we could push into this zone to the north that, it seemed like nobody used. It was logged to pieces and nobody was using it. It was dry. It would have been a great area to develop a trail in. And we did that. We consulted, we spoke, we talked with the right people. And, one group we forgot was it was kind of a local hunting ground. It was really close to Valemount. It was almost too close for my liking for people to be walking around with a bunch of guns, but it was a local hunting turf for white-tailed deer. And, that was a user group that we affected, and I feel terrible for it. So, that's certainly challenges is respecting everybody's needs. Funding, finding funding, securing funding with shovel-ready projects. It's not easy. And I think it's the trouble for most of the user groups. And it's not just the funding to build, it's the funding to maintain the animal that you built. You never know how busy it's going to get. We certainly did not expect this demand. The demand that we have now. We're lucky that we have great partners, great support, and it's still a challenge to maintain what we've built. And then now we're, the world's moving to such a risk adverse society. I think managing liability, managing government's perception of risk. I think all of those things are becoming more challenging, and we're not there. We haven't seen the end of it yet. So those are some of the things we faced for sure.
Has it been challenging with the growth of it and the constant development that you've done there? Like I've noticed every time I go back there's basically had to be amendments to the trail maps and the signage, and it's probably just a constant thing.
Yeah, I hate maps. I wish everything could be digital, but it's not the way. I just complained about pulling out my phone. We build, we're building on momentum. We're building on, the benefits of the community, but we're really trying to build sustainably. Everything we add has been talked about, discussed, debated. Who's it good for? There's bro building, like building for your friends and building for yourself. And then there's pro building, right? So, building for a reason, for the community. And it's been a challenge to kind of to fit all that in and watch that capacity as we go. But everything that we're doing has a purpose, and has a loosey-goosey plan behind it. But we're always thinking ahead as to, how are we going to maintain what we've built? How do we keep the quality up? That's the most important thing for me. People come to Valemount because of our quality trails. If I'm riding around and I find a brake bump, it's not acceptable, right? And so we've got to make sure that we can keep that maintenance, and that might end up putting on the brakes of some construction. Like this past summer, we really just we did a rebuild of our jump line, we extended our climbing trail, and extended another green access network over on the Swift side. So slowing down a little bit, but I don't even look at it as slowing down. I look at it as just getting a bit more picky on where you put a trail and why you put a trail somewhere.
Is there talk of, like right now, you just roll in there, park, and go biking? There's no charge for it. Is there talk of a user fee?
Wouldn't that be nice? Even $5 a head would change the outlook of mountain biking, I think, everywhere, and especially in our area due to the high maintenance and high cost of stuff that we're doing. But unfortunately, with our trails and most trails in BC are on public land, so they have some sort of agreement with rec sites and trails. And due to the duty of care, a user fee has yet to be established in a mountain bike trail. If you look at the snowmobile industry, where we're charging access fees to go up a groomed trail, our duty of care and our agreements are really from the parking lot to the end of that groomed trail. So we completely maintain that groomed trail. But I look at it like a boat launch. We're maintaining a boat launch. Once you put your boat in the water, put your skis or your sled on the mountain at the end of that groomed trail, you're in Mother Nature. You're on your own. Where if we invite people to a staging area and say, go ride your bike, we've built everything that's out there. We've manipulated the ground. We've put this there. We put that there. And yeah, it's I sure hope it happens one day and that we can find a way to do it for the future of biking and the quality of the trail systems in BC. But at this point, it's not looking good.
Are donations an option? Can people donate if they feel like it?
100%, and that's kind of how we really survive. Trying to make donations easy. We have donation boxes in the lower staging area. We have we got signs up everywhere for e-transfers. We're going to move into the QR codes with a direct transfer. Membership is very important as well. But yeah, the cool thing about bikers is they're very open to doing this. And when you go ride somewhere, to put $20 in a donation box, as long as you can. And it's our fault too. Our donation box is kind of small, but we've got signs everywhere. But as long as you're reminded to donate, or it's easy, it's a quick of a QR link, or it's a big donation box, and you got $20 in. The community wants to do it and they want to support trails. I have to say it's an extremely rewarding group to work with and to work for.
And how about future plans for expansion?
We're always looking. Especially with the benefit of what trails have done for our community. I truly believe that trails are the future of Valemount, and I don't think we've scratched the surface yet. But that's not just bike trails. I think our ski touring opportunities are I'd like to be able to park a car and go skiing, and it's very, very difficult here in Valemount. But we're always looking to expand the trail system, the mountain bike trail system, but do it in a sustainable manner. I don't want to jam that mountain full, jam everything in. I want the experience to still be really good for the users. I want the parking lots to be at capacity, but I want that capacity to be, I want there to be a limit to that capacity within those parking lots, so it doesn't affect the user's experience. So, ideally, I hope that we can find a new location at once. And, if you look at Revelstoke, for example, you've got how many areas or how many different places do you go to mountain bike, right? Where Valemount, we still really just have one. It's just really, really good. So we're always looking to expand, but at the same time, pump the brakes a little bit and maintain the machine and make sure it still runs properly.
I'm more of a cross-country rider than a downhiller, so yeah. I ride my bike up as well as down, and I'm quite proud of that. And it's an amazing up track there. So for folks, if it's getting jammed up there with the shuttling, I really highly recommend just pedal your bike uphill. There's a great up track.
Yeah, we just added 3 kilometers to it this fall. Yeah, so it goes all the way up to the Turducken staging area now, which is pretty rad.
So, Curtis, there's a big push in some areas that have traditionally been more resource-based economies to now pivot towards diversifying their local economies, and many of these areas are looking towards tourism. What's your advice to communities out there that might be thinking about trying to build a facility like this? Like, what have you learned along the way that you would want them to know?
Yeah, awesome question. And I do love to see communities transitioning to kind of the outdoor adventure environment or outdoor adventure based economy. And guess one of the biggest pieces is it's really hard to do. There's competition out there, and especially if you're located up in northern BC or northern Alberta or somewhere that's not on a major highway. The most important thing, and what I think really helped us out, was build that bright light first. Like build something that's better than anybody else has. And it could be one jump line. It could be a really really epic flow trail. Build a what do you want to call it? Build an attraction. And then, that could even be an alpine coaster. It could be one of the best alpine bike trails in BC. Just set yourself apart from the norm with even just one thing. And then that word of mouth and the organic movement and marketing and people coming, that's going to spread, and it's going to light a small fire. It's going to get some more wood put on it, and it's going to grow like wildfire if you've done it right the first time. So really try to find out what that attraction is, find what best fits your community, but also the people have to want it. There has to be buy-in within your local community, and in a purely industrial community, that change takes time. People think of tourism, it could be low-paying jobs, and a lot in the service industry, and that's true on the low-end side of things, but there's a ton of room for unique ideas, entrepreneurs, new business owners. You just need to be creative. And as far as the community goes, I really believe in creating something that sets you apart from another destination or another area. Is probably the best first step to get the ball rolling.
I live in Whistler now, and just down the road in Squamish, they have always. There's been a lot of mountain biking there for quite a while, but it really exploded when the federal government gave the local community about $100,000 or so, and they invested half of that into a trail, Half Nelson, which is amazing. But I think it did a few different things, put the area on the map for this one great trail, but it also starts to set the standard that you're measuring, everything else that you do. And it's like, okay, well then if we did this, then what's next? What else can you do? And it just spurs, I think it spurs a lot of interest in the local community to want to do even more once you see that's possible.
Yeah, I agree. And that Half Nelson's that's a flow trail, hey, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
I've ridden it. Yeah, so it's a flow style trail, but it's in a more of an old school trail network. So I think the success of what we've done started with flow trails. Like you can't build a double black diamond trail and that's your attraction. It's for such a small user group. So really try to develop your attraction that's going to get the most bang for your buck and be accessible to the most people. And I do believe that flow trails did that for us, but you can only ride so much flow. You've got to branch off into, but then you can add your more historic lines, your more rake and rides, your other network. But yeah, try to get something that's quite accessible. And I think that's what Half Nelson did for that network. And that's what some of our signature flow trails have certainly done for us. If we just built a black diamond network of old school hand built trails, nobody would have come here. Yeah.
No, it's funny. I talked to this guy. He started a hiking guiding business, and I was chatting to him, and I said, "So, who are your customers? Like, where are they coming from? What do they like to do? What do they like?" And his response was, "I don't know." And I'm thinking, well, if you don't know what your customers want, then how do you even know you're building the right trips for them? And, a little bit to your point, I think he was building trips that he wanted to do versus what his customers or potential customers out there wanted to do. And yeah, it didn't work out very well. And so knowing what the people that are coming to your area are going to want to do is super important, even though the locals might want a certain type of activity for themselves.
I agree. That's one of the hardest human factors to get around is, am I building something for myself? Am I building something for the public? Am I building something for the greater public? And, a community really has to decide that. Are they building, do they want to do this to build tourism, or do they want to do this for the enjoyment of the community? Because it kind of goes two different directions.
We're going to pause here for now, Curtis, and pick up the rest of this conversation in our next episode. If you would like to learn more about VARDA and the Valemount Bike Park, you can visit their website at ridevalemount.com. If you want to find Curtis at his snowmobile guiding and avalanche instruction company, Frozen Pirate, you can find him at frozenpirate.com. You can also learn more about Curtis by checking out his Instagram page at Frozen Pirate. We have posted all of these links in the show notes. Okay, Jordy, what were some of your takeaways from what Curtis had to say?
Well, first, Chris, people can contact Curtis at that contact information, Frozen Pirate info there. But from what he told us, he's pretty darn busy, pretty booked up for the season, but you might be able to squeeze in some of his services if you ask nicely. So one of the takeaways was think big and convince others to think big too. It's okay to dream. In fact, we need to. This helps us keep ourselves and others motivated to keep going. The other side of it is this takes resources. So first of all, a big hurdle is you need to find funding. And on top of that, it also takes a lot of time and effort. Curtis mentioned, which I thought was hilarious because I've experienced this, the STP committees, the same 10 people that are always working on driving an organization forward. You need to find the people who can spend time to build whatever you are creating. Even this podcast, as simple as it sounds, has taken Chris and I over 400 hours of our time to date to develop. Fortunately for me, I have Chris, the SOP, same one person, who is a driving force behind our podcast project.
Jordy, excellent points. I'm just going to add one more here, and that is to build what people want. If you want to be successful, you have to build experiences that people want. This is something I've learned the hard way. While this sounds like a no-brainer, if you're already an expert, this might not be what you want to deliver. This can create a challenge for people. If you're serious about delivering great adventure experiences, whether it's building trails, facilities, lodges, or just leading trips, you really need to think about what your guests or visitors are going to want. As Curtis shared with us, this meant that to be successful, VARDA had to build a variety of trails that were mostly aimed at beginner and intermediate riders. While there are still some advanced trails in the bike park's network, they knew that those trails alone wouldn't make them successful. Applying this to experiences, it's funny how many people have asked me over the years how hard heli-skiing is. For many people who may not be familiar with the heli-ski experience, their perception is that it is for experts only, and I've even met people that thought that you have to jump out of the helicopter because that is what they've seen on TV. I always point out that if that was the case, heli-skiing companies would not have a lot of customers to draw upon. That said, if you want to deliver high-end niche adventures, there are opportunities. To be successful, you just need to do them extremely well. While there are more people that go hiking than climbing on Everest, there are still guided trips on Mount Everest. Speaking of building what people want, let's turn this over to you, the listener. What were your takeaways? You can share your thoughts on this episode or this show by sending us an email at team@deliveringadventure.com. You can also find us via our social media feeds or at our website, deliveringadventure.com. We have posted all of this info and links to where you can find Curtis in the show notes. Before you go, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you take a moment to follow or subscribe to the show so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Next up is Curtis telling us all about the development of North America's first snowmobile-assisted ski area. Thanks for listening.